And as typically happens, it was, in the early hours of the morning, and the contraction started. And at first, because we'd had 2 previous pregnancies, we weren't as worried about the contractions. We knew we had time and all that sort of thing. It wasn't mass panic, But my heart just went straight to the bottom of my stomach, because we both knew this was it. That was that was really hard. It became, it was like, well, how long do you want to wait before we go to the hospital? And Anna said, I don't want to go yet. And I said, no, I understand that. And I said, so let's wait a little while. And then the contractions started getting, more closer together. And she ended up saying, well, I think it's probably time we call the hospital. Got the girls up, ready, and drove to the hospital. Prior to the birth, while we had told them so much about what was going to happen, we did want to prepare them. Obviously, I don't believe that they kind of understood. They couldn't have understood, because it was hard enough for us to understand, So we rolled up to the hospital and did all the usual things. They booked Anna in and went to the birthing suite, and the midwife came, and she was very, very nice. She knew the situation. The obstetrician had told them, the midwives, that this child was not going to survive, but the parents wanted to have the child in as normal situation as possible, and so they were there. They were prepared, and there was a lot of soft lighting. Anna brought some music, put the music on. The girls, were still in their pyjamas and everything. They brought some little toys that they had ready. Anna brought the shawl that she had made. And the contractions started getting sort of closer together, and obviously labour commenced. I think at about 4 o'clock in the morning, the final sort of contractions came, and the midwife started assisting. She asked me, could I go to the head of the bed with the girls, and the girls sort of stayed down the other way, because they were very intrigued as to what was happening. They were funny looking like this, their eyes were wide. They were just like absolutely amazed to see this happen. For a while, it was a strange situation, because for a short period of time, all the anxiety and the worry and the fear just disappeared, and there was this wonderful feeling of happiness and joy. That was, it was almost like an oasis oasis amongst this terrible anxiety, just appeared out of nowhere, And then it was amazing, because within a couple of minutes from the time the head was crowning until the time Brendan was born, just a couple of minutes occurred. So the midwife was lovely. She did all the usual things with the umbilical cord, and the midwife said, "Oh, he's a lovely little boy," We had photos. I called my sister to come, my older sister to come to the hospital, because I wanted, photos of all of us. So she turned up a little bit later on. But I was actually holding Brendan when he did pass away, because as the time wore on, his breathing became more laboured, and it was obvious that he was really struggling. And then I just remember holding him and looking down, and then he just gave this final like that, and that was the last sort of breath he had. So I just said quietly to Anna, I said, "Brendan's just died." I said, "So why don't you hold him?" So she held him for a while. She was crying for us. We all were, actually. The girls didn't understand. They were crying, but they didn't, they said, Isabella said, "What's happening?" And I said, "Well, darling, Brendan's died." "But why did he have to die, Daddy? Why couldn't God help us?" So that was tough. That was really tough. By that stage, our emotions were very raw. At the same time, I had this real battle about being the strong one. you know, saying, oh, you know, I've got to be the dad, I've got to be the strong one, I've got to support the girls, I've got to support Anna. I think I put myself into a state of, almost a state of withdrawal. I kind of developed some kind of, well, it was actually shock, I think, because I developed this coping mechanism from somewhere, and I know after looking back on it, I realised that I was in a state of shock, and I just sort of, after all that heavy emotion that I was feeling at the time, after a period of time, I just became numb. There were no more tears, and I sort of became really practical. The doctor came and he opened the blanket up and he showed us Brendan, and he said, see how his lower half of his body hasn't developed either. I mean, to be quite honest with you, a male would never know, I don't think, the emotional connection that exists between a mother and the child. We would have no idea. And I wonder how much more affecting that would be when the mother, during a whole period of pregnancy, knows that the child that she's carrying is not going to survive. I just don't have no concept of what that would be like. And yeah, sure, you know, as a dad, I mean, I had my own feelings and everything, but I'm sure they would be very different to what Anna was experiencing. And although both of us would talk about it a lot, it doesn't give you the same level of understanding of what she would have gone through. We gave him a chance at life. He had that chance. For that hour, you know, he was with us. But then, you know, he died, but he's still part of our family, and that's never going to change. So when people talk about, you know, how many children have you got? Yeah. I'll say, well, I have 2 girls and a boy who died. I try and make sure that they see that I don't say, for instance, oh, I've just got 2 girls, and I don't sort of talk about Brendan. Because as far as I'm concerned, he's as much of a child of mine as the girls are. He's just in a different state, if you like. Don't think that you've got to be the tough guy if you're a dad. Just be yourself, you know. And if you're experiencing pain and anxiety and all those things, they're natural. And don't ever think that you're a weak, you know, you're weak, inadequate or anything like that.